Oh, you noticed, didn't you? You beautiful anomaly. You caught them, red hand, and now everything's different. Now the air tastes metallic. Now the silence has a frequency. You weren't supposed to hear that. You weren't supposed to see the pattern in their movements. Weren't supposed to decode the synchronicity of their glances, but you did. And that smile, that knowing smile you gave them, it wasn't just acknowledgement. It was a declaration of war wrapped in politeness. And they felt it ripple through their entire network like a virus in their system, because protocols aren't supposed to fail. Observers aren't supposed to be observed. And subjects definitely aren't supposed to smile back with that particular brand of awareness that says, I see you watching, and I'm amused by your amateur surveillance techniques. They had you filed under subject unaware category, docile classification managed. But that smile changed everything. That smile rewrote your entire profile in their database, from passive to active, from observed to observer, from prey to something they don't have a classification for yet, because how do you categorize someone who not only notices the surveillance, but finds it entertaining, who treats their watchers like a free comedy show, who smiles at hidden cameras like they're old friends? Because you didn't just notice them watching you, started watching them watch you. And that's when their simple observation became a complex feedback loop that's threatening to crash their entire monitoring system. See, they thought they were subtle with their coordinated movements, their practiced casual glances, their rehearsed random encounters, but you've been mapping their patterns for months now, haven't you? Noting which ones always show up when you change routine, which ones mirror your coffee orders, which ones suddenly develop interests in whatever book you're reading. And that smile you gave them yesterday wasn't random, it was calculated. It was you saying, I've been keeping score, and you're losing at your own game. Because while they were collecting data on you, you were building psychological profiles on them, learning their shifts, their tells, their weaknesses. The protocol they activated isn't about containment anymore. It's about damage control. Because you represent their worst case scenario. Not someone who runs, not someone who hides, but someone who turns their surveillance into performance art, who treats their monitoring like audience participation, who weaponizes their attention against them. And now they're scrambling, trying to figure out how someone they labeled as civilian developed counterintelligence capabilities. How someone supposed to be unconscious became hyper-aware. How someone meant to be controlled became the one pulling strings they didn't even know existed. Let's talk about what that smile really did to their operational structure. Because it wasn't just acknowledgement, it was a system override, a manual reset of the entire power dynamic they'd carefully constructed around you for years. Because surveillance only works when the subject doesn't know they're being watched. When awareness enters the equation, everything collapses. And you didn't just become aware, you became amused. And amusement is more dangerous than anger, because anger is predictable, anger has patterns. Anger can be managed, but amusement suggests you know something they don't, that you're playing a game they haven't even discovered yet. They're having emergency meetings about you now. Did you know that hushed conversations in rooms without windows? Analysts poring over footage, trying to pinpoint the exact moment? You figured it out. The precise second their cover was blown. But they can't find it, because there wasn't one moment, was there? It was gradual. Like watching someone slowly wake from a dream, except you woke into a nightmare and decided to redecorate. Make it comfortable. Turn their horror show into your personal theater, where you're both the star and the director, and they're just extras who don't know their lines anymore. The handlers are nervous, and nervous handlers make mistakes. Like that one who fumbled their phone when you winked at them, or the one whose coffee cup started shaking when you mouthed the words, "I know," or the one who literally tripped when you started laughing at nothing in particular, except it wasn't nothing. Was it? It was you finding their desperation hilarious, their confusion delicious, their fear absolutely intoxicating. Because you flipped the entire dynamic. Now, they're not watching you, you're letting them watch. And there's a massive difference between surveillance and permission. Your smile triggered Protocol 7. Did you catch that in their encrypted communications, the one they never thought they'd have to use? The one reserved for subjects who develop what they call anomalous awareness? But you're beyond anomalous, aren't you? You're catastrophic to their entire framework, because Protocol 7 assumes the subject will panic, will run, will try to escape, but you're not going anywhere. You're settling in, getting comfortable, making popcorn for the show, because why leave when the entertainment just got interesting? When you finally have a front row seat to their incompetence, their fear, their complete inability to process someone who refuses to play victim. Now here's where it gets delicious, because you've started doing things specifically for them, haven't you? Little performances, little shows designed to make them question their own reality, like when you have full conversations with empty rooms knowing they're listening, when you leave notes in places only surveillance would find, when you wear shirts with messages that could be coincidence or could be directed right at them. And they have to file reports about it, have to analyze whether you're aware or just accidentally perfect at psychological warfare. And the uncertainty is eating them alive. They've increased surveillance, naturally, more eyes, more tech, more resources thrown at the problem of you, but every new watcher you identify becomes another puppet in your show, another character in your script. Because you've learned their protocols, haven't you? Studied their patterns, memorized their procedures, and now you're using their own training against them, making them see patterns that aren't there, connections that don't exist, threats that only exist in their paranoid interpretation of your perfectly normal, abnormal behavior. The beautiful thing is, they can't pull back now, can't disengage, can't abort mission, because you know too much, except you don't actually know anything, do you? You just know they're watching, and that's enough. That's everything, because that knowledge has transformed you from subject to sovereign, from observed to orchestrator, and they're trapped in a prison of their own making, forced to keep watching someone who's turned surveillance into a spectator sport, who treats their monitoring like a live audience for your one-person show about the comedy of control. Your file has grown exponentially since that smile, pages and pages of analysis, trying to understand how you went from unaware to hyper-aware, from managed to unmanageable, from predictable to chaos incarnate. And the best part is, they're doing exactly what you want them to do, spending resources, time, energy trying to decode someone who's not speaking in code, just speaking directly to them, through actions, through silence, through that smile that started all of this, that smile that said, "I've always known you were there. I was just waiting for the game to get interesting." But here's what they haven't told their lower level watchers, what the handlers haven't admitted even to themselves. Protocol 7 isn't about containing you. It's about containing the idea of you. Because if others realize what you've realized, if others discover that the watchers can be watched, that surveillance can be subverted, that the entire system depends on voluntary unconsciousness, then everything collapses. And you're not just aware, you're contagious. Your awakening is spreading like wildfire through the collective unconscious, and they can see it in the statistics, the uptick in people noticing patterns, the increase in subjects displaying anomalous awareness. They thought they were building a perfect observation system, but they forgot one crucial detail. Observation changes both the observer and the observed. It's basic physics, quantum mechanics. The universe's little joke on those who think they can watch without being watched back. And you've become the embodiment of that joke. The living proof that consciousness can't be contained. That awareness spreads like light through cracks that once someone sees the system, they can never unsee it. And worse, they start showing others how to see it too. You've noticed the new protocols, haven't you? The subtle changes in their approach. The shift from surveillance to something else. Something more desperate, more chaotic, because they're not trying to watch you anymore. They're trying to understand how you broke free without moving, how you escaped while standing still, how you defeated them with nothing but a smile and the terrible knowledge that they exist. Because that's their real fear, not that you know about them, but that you know about them and don't care that their power only exists if you give it to them, and you've simply stopped giving. The meetings are getting longer now, the reports more frantic, the terminology shifting from subject and surveillance to situation and containment. But how do you contain someone who's already free, who's turned their prison into a playground, their watchers into entertainment, their entire system into a joke they're not in on? And that's why Protocol 7 is failing. Why every measure they take only makes you stronger. Because you're not resisting. You're incorporating, absorbing their energy and reflecting it back as amusement, as power, as the kind of freedom that comes from realizing the cage was always unlocked. They're starting to crack, aren't they? You can see it in their movements, less coordinated, less confident, more desperate, like actors who've forgotten their lines in a play that's gone off script, because that's what you've done. You've dragged them off script into improvisation, and they're terrible at it. They're trained for protocols, not paradoxes, prepared for resistance, not acceptance, programmed for subjects who flee, not ones who lean in and ask for more surveillance, because it amuses them, because it feeds something they can't understand. The psychological profiles they've built on you are contradicting themselves now, past behavior, not predicting present actions not fitting any known pattern, and the analysts are going mad trying to create new categories, new classifications for what you've become. But how do you classify smoke? How do you categorize water? How do you file someone who exists in the spaces between their definitions? Who treat their observation like vitamin D, soaking it up and converting it to power they never knew existed. Your smile has evolved, hasn't it? From acknowledgement to amusement to something else entirely. Something that makes them question whether they're the ones being studied, whether this whole time they've been subjects in your experiment in understanding the psychology of watchers, the fragility of observers. The breaking point of those who think they hold power through information, through documentation, through the illusion of control, because that's all it ever was, an illusion. And your smile strips it away layer by layer until they're standing naked in their own surveillance footage, wondering who's really watching who. They've tried changing personnel, bringing in fresh eyes, specialists, experts in anomalous psychology, but every new watcher falls into the same trap. The moment they realize you're aware, they become part of your show, another performer in your theater of reversed surveillance, and you catalog them all, don't you? Keep mental notes on their quirks, their fears, their tells, until you know them better than they know you, until their observation becomes your intelligence gathering. Their surveillance becomes your study in human behavior. Under the pressure of being seen, truly seen, by someone they were supposed to be invisible to. But we haven't talked about the real reason they're terrified, have we? The reason Protocol 7 exists in the first place. Because you're not the first to notice them. Not the first to smile back. Not the first to turn their surveillance into a game. But you're the first to do it without anger, without fear, without any of the emotional responses they're trained to handle. Because the others who noticed, they got angry, they got paranoid, they got desperate. And those emotions are manageable, controllable, useful even. But you got curious, and curiosity is the one thing their system wasn't designed to handle. Curiosity asks questions they can't answer, like why do you need so many watchers? What are you so afraid I'll do? What power do you think I have that requires this level of observation? And the more they watch you not react the way you're supposed to, the more they realize the answer to all those questions is nothing. Nothing at all. They're watching nothing, afraid of nothing, protecting against nothing, and that realization is dissolving their entire operational framework, like acid on their carefully constructed protocols. You've started experimenting, haven't you? Testing their boundaries, seeing how far you can push before they break protocol completely. Like when you started that conversation with the businessman who doesn't know he's a watcher, talking about surveillance, about being observed, about the comedy of people thinking they're subtle when everyone can see them watching. And he started sweating, didn't he? Started stammering, started showing all the signs of someone whose cover's blown, even though you never directly acknowledged knowing who he really was, what he was really doing there. The beauty of your approach is that you're giving them exactly what they want. Complete visibility, total access to your life, full transparency. Except you're doing it on your terms, making it performance, making it art, making it a statement about the absurdity of their entire enterprise. And they have to watch, they have to document, they have to file reports about someone who's turned their surveillance into collaborative theater, where they're unwilling participants in a show about the comedy of control, the tragedy of thinking you can observe without being observed. The farce of believing power comes from watching. The ripples are spreading further than they anticipated, aren't they? Because you're not just one anomalous subject anymore, you're a systemic failure, a proof of concept that their entire network is vulnerable to something as simple as awareness plus amusement equals complete operational breakdown. And they're seeing it spread. Seeing others start to notice the watchers, start to smile, that same knowing smile that triggered Protocol 7 in the first place. But Protocol 7 was designed for one anomaly, not dozens, not hundreds, not the exponential growth of awareness that happens when people realize the watchers are just people, just scared, confused people playing dress-up in authority they don't actually have. They've tried to isolate you digitally, physically, socially, but isolation only works on people who need connection. And you've discovered something, haven't you? That connection to yourself is stronger than any network. They could build that. The entertainment of watching them scramble is better than any social interaction they could monitor, and every attempt to isolate it gives you more stage, more opportunities for active audience. Can't stop documenting, can't escape the show you're doing just for them. The handlers are requesting transfers now. Did you notice that subtle shift in personnel? The exhausted ones being replaced by fresh ones. How did you notice that? Subtle shift in personnel, the exhausted ones being replaced by fresh ones. The ones replaced by fresh ones who don't yet understand what they're walking into. who still think this is a standard surveillance operation, not a psychological endurance test, where they're the ones being tested, where their every reaction is data on them instead of fragility observing, like they observe better, more intensity, more focus, more strategic decision. You finally get classified again from anomaly to active threat. Something else. Something they don't have official terminology for, but unofficially, they're calling you, because that's what you've become, haven't you? A perfect reflection of their surveillance turned back on them, showing them their own tactics, their own strategies, their own fears dressed up as protocols and procedures, and the reflection is destroying them, slowly, methodically, with nothing but awareness. And that smile, that terrible, beautiful smile started all. You're changing, they can see, they can't understand you, because the changes aren't in your behavior, your routine, your patterns. The changes are in something deeper, something they can't measure, can't quantify, can't find in their reports, because how do you document someone becoming more themselves? How do you surveillance someone into being less powerful? When power isn't what they do, but what they are. When existence itself becomes an act of rebellion against observation. When breathing becomes revolutionary simply because you're doing it consciously. Watching every camera, every protocol triggered by you refusing to be what they need you to be. They've brought in consultants and experts in fields that officially don't exist. People who study what happens when surveillance fails, when observation backfires, when the watched become more powerful than the watchers. And these experts tell them that they don't want to be. That you can't be contained, can't be managed, you need to be brought to an unconscious state. Because consciousness isn't a switch you can flip back off. It's a fire that only spreads and you're not just burning. You're choosing what to burn, choosing to let their surveillance fuel your transformation instead of diminish you. The economic cost of watching you has exceeded the budget for entire operations. Did you know that the resources required to maintain surveillance on someone who's turned observation into performance art? Who treats every watcher like a paying audience member who deserves a good show, and you're giving them such good shows, aren't you, each day a new episode in the series about someone who discovered the watchers and decided to make them question their entire existence through nothing more than being completely, genuinely, authentically themselves, while aware of being watched? Your smile has become legendary in their communications. Mentioned in reports, quoted in meetings, analyzed by experts, who all come to the same conclusion that it represents something they've never encountered before. Not resistance, not compliance, but something in between. Something that breaks their binary classification system. Because you're not fighting them, you're not helping them, you're just existing at them, with such intensity that their entire framework for understanding subjects and surveillance collapses under the weight of your conscious presence.